Welcome to the June special board meeting. First thing up is Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, just so everybody's clear tonight, there's two meetings that are going to occur. The first one's a voting meeting. At the end of that, we will adjourn, and then we will start a work session right after that. So you don't have to leave when we adjourn.
But you can.
But you can. All right, the board met in executive session beforehand to go over some personnel issues. Next up is student recognitions.
We start with you.
We start with me. Millie? Is he in around? Yes. There you are. All right. So every year we give our student reps a gift, so we have a gift here for two of you. We'll come up in a minute here, but thank you very much. Good luck on your future endeavors at NYU and some other school. No. She had a choice of my alma mater and Cal Polytech, and for some reason she chose the ocean versus Purdue in the middle of the cornfields. Not quite sure why, but a great choice, so.
It's for when you visit home, because I don't think you'll need that in California.
It's on the ocean side.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Henry McCluskey. I'm the assistant principal at the high school. Thank you for allowing me to take time to honor the
Students,
tonight.
first up, Shrey Pandya. Come on, Shrey. Stand up front. Shrey took first place in the programming category at the CCIU Regional Media Design Competition. Congratulations to Shrey for his accomplishments.
Thank you.
Good job, Shrey. All right, the kids from FBLA, please come on up. The gang, please.
When we're here, you hear your name, you're gonna come up, all right? So I did it from descending order, all right?
The Great Valley Future Business Leaders of the America Club had another tremendous year, making a difference in the community by volunteering and raising money for various charities. In addition, they have been pushing themselves rigorously by participating in regional, state, and national competitions. The GVFBLA students made everyone proud by sending 48 students to the regional competition, with 37 students placed in the top 4 and were invited to the state competition. At the state competition, Great Valley High School had 10 students placed in the top 10. Here is our top 10 winners. First up, John Lee, 10th place in political science. Rebecca Stern, 9th place, Introduction to Financial Math. Ryan May, 8th place in Organizational Leadership. Louise Dupont, 8th place in Introduction to Parliamentary Procedure. Is Louise here? Louise could not make it. Akash Narayan, 7th place in Introduction to Informational Technology. Philip Zhang, 6th place in Introduction to Informational Technology. Chris Yee, 4th place in Cybersecurity. No Chris Yee. Alan Zhu, 4th place in Economics. Dominic Finan, 4th place in Healthcare Administration. All right, Dom. Trey Pandya, 3rd place, Introduction to Informational Technology. Luke Liu, 2nd place in Agribusiness. That's good. Christian Angelov, 2nd place in Securities and Investments. All right. We have an add-on to the list. 7th place in Networking Concept, Ridvik Babali. And finally, our only state champion, I'm very upset about that, we should have more. Noah Harrigan took 1st place in Economics. The students who placed in the top 4 in their state event are invited to National in San Antonio, Texas, which is held on June 29th. As of today, Chris Yee, Shrey Pandya, and Luke Liu will be representing Great Valley at the National Leadership Conference and Academic Challenge. Ridvik. Noah. The 4 guys stay. I need Noah, Alan, Ridvik, and John back up here. Quickly. Hustle up. No, we're missing one. What'd you do with that? Okay, just give it to me afterwards. We'll get back to it. All right, back in January, Noah Harrigan, Alan Zhu, Ridvik Babali, and John Lee put together a team to compete in the 19th Annual National Economic Challenge. The 4 economic fanatics worked hard and competed in the John Smith Division. The John Smith Division was comprised of 96 teams from the state of Pennsylvania. The team tested back in March and was awarded the top team in Pennsylvania. From there, they were invited to the national semifinals held in April. Once again, the students from Great Valley did us proud by placing 28th out of the 50 teams in the United States. We're hoping this team stays together and competes again next year. Congratulations go to Ridvik, Noah, John, and Alan.
You might as well just stay up. Let's get him a seat up there.
Good evening. I'm Darren McCauley from the high school. I'm also the coach of our school's Quiz Bowl team. And tonight I'm here to recognize the PIAA, or the PA State Academic Competition, state runners-up, and Chester County Academic League champions. The Great Valley Quiz Bowl team competes in various competitions throughout the year. The last few years has been nationally competitive teams. They have won 3 straight Chester County championships. Were state finalists the last 3 years. This year's team won the Chester County Championship by defeating Westchester Henderson in the finals by 5 points, and then lost in the state finals to Hempfield after being the #1 seed through prelims. At this time, I'd like to recognize the 6 members of the league championship team and the state runners-up. So if you guys want to come up. First, I will recognize our sophomores, Rishi Rahman and Anshu Nunamanthala. Our junior captain, John Lee. And our senior captains, Dan Milani, Nandini Krishnan, and Will Lewis. Great Valley High School is named first place winner in the NJM Insurance Group Just Drive Public Service Announcement Video Contest. This contest welcomed high schools from across the region to submit a 30-second video outlining the dangers of distracted driving. Students from 34 Pennsylvania high schools created videos. Great Valley High School won first place with a PSA that was produced by television studio director Kevin Fitzpatrick. Senior Jacob Mingus. What up, Jacob? Juniors Isaiah Cunningham and Jacob Hoover. And finally, sophomore Sarah Lou.
That's you.
Don't worry, Mom, she'll get out of the way so you
Do I just talk? I'm Paul Waltz. I'm the coach of the Great Valley tennis team. And all I can say is, wow, what a year we had. Started off winning the league championship, which was beating Unionville, which we all love, who was probably the best, we thought was the best team in the state. So we continued on and we got better and better, mainly because this is a real team. This was a team we had this year. Every single person contributed to our state win. And this is the third year in a row we've been in the finals. We finally won out of 188 schools. We're the state champion, and we're the only team in the Chestnut League, both leagues, to win the states. So what I'm going to have is Ryan Hamill's going to get up and introduce each player. He's one of our captains. He was a rock of our team.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to start off with second doubles. We have Steven Coelho and Adit Awantramani. At first doubles, we have Warwick Parvis and Mark Lucier. Third singles, we have Amish Saini.
Yes.
Second singles, myself, Ryan Hamill. And first singles, we have Samir Ganguly.
We also need to know that Samir took second in the state singles this year. And he's also recognized by the National High School Tennis All-American Foundation's All-American, which is the whole country, not just a few states, it's the whole country. So he's a National All-American. I know I'm taking too long. And also Jerry McGrath, really, his first year of helping, this is what he expects every year now. So he helped me as an assistant coach. He was a great help. Mark up and down.
Switch. Yeah, wide angle.
Great job, guys.
Wait. Don't move.
Very nice tonight. The Great Valley Crew Team finished fifth place overall in the Philadelphia City Championships and qualified for the SRAA National Championship Regatta. The team that will be going on to nationals are Caroline Glazer, Colin Biddle, Al Juan, Ryan Layden, and finally Nathan Bayala.
this is, just to introduce, this is Wayne McCullough. He's the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials, which is a statewide association with over 3,000 members devoted to providing education, training, professional development to those of us in the business offices across the state. So Wayne.
All right, thank you, Mr. Linderman, and good evening to the distinguished members of the Board of Education and the community of the Great Valley School District. I bring you warm and heartfelt greetings from the Board of Directors, the staff, and as Mr. Linderman stated, the 3,000 members of the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials. It's with great pride to be here this evening and formally congratulate Melissa Klaus, Pennsylvania Certified School Business Specialist, and Great Valley School District for their award-winning entry in the PASBO Award of Excellence in School Business Purchasing Operations. You have demonstrated a commitment to the highest ethical and highest professional standards in the acquisition of goods and services to serve the children in public school districts in Pennsylvania. You have also demonstrated efficient, innovative, and the implementation of best practices in school purchasing operations. So it's great pride that I recognize Melissa Klaus and Great Valley School District for the Pennsylvania Association of School Business Officials 2019 Award of Excellence in School Purchasing Operations. Congratulations.
Dolores, you join the shop.
Do we have to wait for Chuck's mother?
Mr. Barrett, I think perhaps there was something omitted from the program, which was the introduction of the new school board representatives. So, yeah.
No problem.
That's fine. We could do it tonight.
Are they here?
Yeah, they're
Great, it's wonderful.
I have a funny feeling it's the two people sitting in the front.
Very happy, excited.
Two right there.
They look excited.
No, we just.
Yes?
Which are you the alternate? Okay. Okay, so the new school board reps will be David Nemeth and Katie Olafson.
So for everybody who's not aware, every year there's a process at the high school where they apply to be our student rep, and our student reps and the alternate get to come and spend the evening with us a couple times a month and let us know what's going on in the school. So it's good to hear about all the activities and fundraisers and
Issues.
issues. Yeah, we do get some issues, and all the great things that are going on in the high school. So it's a great position. Looking forward to seeing you guys next year. So thanks for volunteering.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to juggle ahead 1 minute. We have a presentation by the foundation, since we have you captive right now, that we're going to do right now. So, you guys ready?
Just go for it.
Yep.
Steve, coming up. So as this board knows, maybe some in the room know, there's been a lot of really exciting stuff going on with the Foundation of Great Valley. Some, I'll call it reignited, reinvigorated passion by the Foundation Board's leadership team to really think in new ways about how to bring the community together to create some really exceptional and meaningful experiences for Great Valley students. So tonight we are here to sort of jump off with this new invigorated passion. And Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about what you're here to present this evening?
Wasn't prepared. The Quiz Bowl team approached us they had some difficulty with their fundraising last year. And in order for the team to continue to do what they do in their winning ways, the foundation decided to provide a donation to the Quiz Bowl team in the sum of $2,500 so that they can continue to do what they do. So, Amy, if you come up, we can
I'd love to.
present this.
Special thank you, Mr. McCluskey. Ready, everybody up here? Steve? Thank you.
Anybody that want to stay for the budgets, welcome to leave. Want to stay for Mr. Linderman's last budget?
Really, it's my 34th and final budget.
All these
34th and
kids,
final
right?
budget. Some of your parents weren't even born when I did my first budget.
We're in some other locations.
You guys don't have to stay.
Yeah, don't feel bad.
I would.
You're welcome to stay.
But don't feel pressure. Do you guys still have finals? Okay, so you still have a little ways to go. I know, but that's what I wasn't sure. Graduation comes ahead. Yeah. They want to stay for a little
If you're going to leave the room, you need to leave the room. If you want to stay, please have a seat so we can continue. Thank you. All right. Okay. Budget update, Mr. Linderman.
Here we go. Okay, for the 34th and final time. Huh? There's no crying in budgeting. There's no crying in baseball, there's no crying in budgeting. Yeah. So, the final budget, as it stands right now, is $109,100,000 compared to last year's budget of $105 million. It's about a 4.67% increase, and you can see we've split it out the past couple of years, showing what the pension costs are. It's a big chunk. What special ed costs, they are another big chunk, and the remainder of the budget. Revenue predominantly, as you know, looks like Pac-Man there. For those that were here 34 years ago, Pac-Man was probably a big thing, but now it's not. But Pac-Man's eating up that little, the local sources are Pac-Man, and the state and federal and everything else is a very small portion of it. In expenditures, predominantly it's staffing. And then followed quickly by debt and transportation and support of other schools, and then a smaller portion out there for operating costs, and the budget reserved and our planned transfers that will include the debt proposal that we will talk about in a second here, and then infrastructure. So these are our reserves, no different than it was last week. That's what we're projecting here with the budget. Millage increase is just under 1.2%, so it's 21.55. And it'll, compared to 21.295, I'm kind of happy to announce that I will be going out at the bottom of my colleagues, because Westchester, who was a little bit lower than us last year, settled their budget at 21.66. So we will officially be the lowest millage in the county. We already were the lowest taxing because we have no earned income tax. But now, it's always good to go out on the bottom. So I'm going out on the bottom. So staffing, this is from last time, 2 weeks ago. We have no change. There may or may not be some changes in special ed depending on some enrollment fluctuations we were just talking about today. We'll have to fill you in on those later. Again, mainly the enrollment at the elementary school is driving most of the changes. I will tell you that our last enrollment, kindergarten enrollment for next year is significantly higher than last year this time, as we expected with the FDK thing. I think we're at 280 something registered already this year, and we still have the summer to go. And this year we only had 247 or 252 total. So we're sort of on track. Hopefully we're not underestimating it, but.
And in the area of special education, there are guidelines around numbers of students that are assigned to each class. And this year we've had record numbers of, it's actually an anomaly in the county, to the move-ins of students that are coming with plans, and as well as our early intervention. So those numbers, we will meet the need of the students that move in.
Okay, now here's the chart I said I would have for you that I was thinking of. Hopefully this helps you. So this chart shows the impact of the debt reserve if you do the debt reserve over 3 years, and versus if you wait and in 2022, 23, you just levy the millage based on what our guesstimate of a $50 million project would be. So you see each year in blue, I think it's blue up there, yeah, it's about $0.25 mil. So most of the current increase, I mean almost all of the current increase for this year is just this debt reserve. So it's really a smidge that is not the debt reserve, almost a not material number. So you see it's 0.25% each year if you do $1 million. So that's going to add about $60 to the average residential taxpayer based on an average assessment of the $241,000 assessment. Now, we list the median assessed value, and it, in math, median is the middle. 12,000 numbers, it is number 6,000. So the median taxpayer is $207,000. Actually, our average taxpayer is about a little more than 2/3 of our taxpayers are assessed at less than the average because of some high-end houses that draw the average up on the top of the scale. So anyway, the median, just for purposes, so most of our taxpayers would pay, half of our taxpayers would pay $52 extra a year. So you can see at the end of 3 years, the average taxpayer would pay about $181 more to phase in this plan. The median taxpayer would pay about $155 to phase in this plan. It'd be about a 0.75 millage increase on that tax bill. Now, if you waited and did nothing and in year 22, 23 just said, we're just going to levy the millage that year, the heck with it. So you won't have the $6 million in interest. You'll be borrowing more money. It comes out to you would have to levy 1.16 mils. That's based on the numbers that the RBC people showed us. Trying to make this as simple as possible. I do not want to get into real details on it. So really, you would then, that would be an average increase for the average taxpayer of $280 that year. $240 for the median taxpayer. So it would actually cost people about $100 if you're the average taxpayer, $99, or about $85 if you're median. So you save money by doing it because you are putting money away, you're doing it in. It's, I probably never did the fund balance activity with you guys because we haven't had to. But it's the same premise on, it's basically 1 mil levied, and I don't mean a whole mil, it's just kind of in anything. $1 levied this year is worth $2 next year. And then that compounds, as we showed with the 1 million, then 2 million, and then 3 million becomes 6 million and $300,000 or $400,000 that you would put. So instead of borrowing $50 million that year, you're borrowing a tad under 44 million. So you need less money. So hopefully that helps. I've tried to make it as simple as possible, using as many numbers as I could. Because it is just math. I'm having a pause that refreshes here. Anybody? Okay. This is the capital plan. We shared this last month, so you can see that next year's capital budget's about $4.3 million for 1920. Just a chart here showing the Act 1 index, which is the index that we are forced to live under for maximum taxes, not including any referendum exceptions, versus what our millage rate has actually going up versus the Social Security from the Department of Labor Statistics index going up. So if you look across the bottom, based on the Act 1 index, the average Act 1 index has been just under 2.6%. The average Great Valley increase has been about 1.85%, and the average increase, we don't know what the, I don't think that they haven't established a Social Security increase for this year. For next year, has averaged, although based on one less year, it's 1.81%. This is a cumulative chart that shows what all the schools in the county have done in their average increase in taxes since the inception of Act 1. Us and Downingtown are at the very bottom of this. Downingtown's had a series of zeros, 6 or 7 years. Just for that. These are the tax rates. This is this year's tax rates. So you see how close we were to Westchester. They will now pass us this year. So we will be at the bottom. It's always good to go out on the bottom. So tonight's the night. Tonight, last April was your prom date. Tonight you're getting married. Make a decision on what you want to do with the budget. Our recommendation is. You are going to miss me, Linda. There's no. I'm the FBE. Funniest boss ever. So
Next September, we'll find out the truth.
You'll find out. So any questions? Right now, baked into the budget is the $1 million we've been talking about for months. That's what's in the resolution. That's what we recommend.
All right. Questions?
All right, any questions?
Yeah, I had wanted to know about 1.5, what impact that would be.
Well, you could just extrapolate that, take 1 times everything there. And so it would be 0.375 every time. And then 1.5, that would be, it's just math, that'd be 112.5 mils. And then the 1.16 mils would be.
So I was interested in like how much it would.
It would be.
Taxpayers.
I think you showed us that last one that was $81, $82.
Chart like that, but it's going to be a little bit wider because you're going to have more money saved in there.
I think the 52 was something like 79 or 81, if I remember.
Yeah,
from last
so
time.
you'd be over $100 difference. The top one would be, instead of 1.16, you're going to be 1.74 versus 1. 1.125.
You have obviously started retirement because you're slipping here on
I know,
the
I
answers.
would have had these, I would have had these, it's just math. Believe it or not, it's not algebra 2, it's not calculus, it's just like
Pure
simple
general
math.
math.
So basically, if the median at $1 million is $50, let's just say $50, and that's at $1 million, and we wanted to do $1.5 million, then the median increase would be $75.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So it's 1.5 times whatever the slide showed.
Times everything, so.
Thank you.
Yeah. So if you were to, so the $85 would be, add $42 on that, $127. Now, remember, we looked at the million for 3 million based on what Schrader gave us as a gross estimate of a small building. We're not in the place we think that we were 20 years ago when we had to renovate and build a couple buildings and renovate every building. We still will be dealing with every building, but not on the major scale that we did 20-some years ago.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions on the budget? All right, so at this point, I will open up the microphone for any public participation on the budget that we're voting on. There'll be a public participation section later on in the work session for any other comments. So if anybody's got a comment, they can come to the podium, state their name and residency.
Just budget, yeah.
Does that include budget for secondary teachers?
It would be part of the budget, yes.
It would be, okay.
Sure.
Then I guess I can, thank you.
No problem.
My name is Jackie Velez, and I have a son that's a junior at the high school. And I'm here tonight to share my concerns for the future of the Great Valley High School Art Department. Last year, when Mrs. Ritchie retired, the district did not hire another art teacher at Great Valley High School. And I know there was a letter that was written to parents that stated that the goal was to, our goal is to staff in a way that is congruent with student demand. And at this time, I'm wondering if any consideration has been given to enrollment, if there's been any reassessment of the number of students, and perhaps the need to reinstate a third teacher, as well as, I guess, assess the need to have teachers of varying areas of expertise in the department. I know that in speaking with some parents, I've heard that there are some students that did not get art classes that they wanted, and because classes were full and other classes did not fit into their schedule for the classes that were full. And also for students that were perhaps pursuing a degree in college for art, that they also didn't get the number of courses they wanted. My understanding is that in the past, there were some students that were able to take 3D AP, 3D contract, in addition to other art classes their senior year. So in addition to that being a concern for all students, I'm also thinking of my son who will be a senior, and he's requested several art classes next year. I'm just wondering, how will you do the scheduling? If there's anything that can change, I think the date was June 30th today, and if there's anything else that parents can say or do to say that they would love to see a third teacher and more options for the art students in the high school. With that being said, if there was a third art teacher, Ms. Groh, who is at the high school now, would certainly transfer seamlessly into that position. She's taught my son a lot about 3D art. My son also had 3D last year. There were mediums that he did not get to explore that he was able to explore. Metalworking was one of them, and he's actually thinking about pursuing that in college. So just wanted to express that, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, any other comments on the budget? All right. We will now move to the voting session. Do I have a motion
I would like to move that the board accept the budget resolution for the total sum of $109,900,000.
All right, do I have a second?
Second?
All right, any questions or comments or discussions?
Just a little bit of discussion. We did talk about this last week, but I just, for the sake of transparency. So this budget resolution, Chuck, what it does is it closes our budget gap, which seems to be negligible this year, but it allows us $1 million to start prepaying our future construction debt. So that in the event that we're faced over the next few years with having to build on or build another facility, we don't have to lose our focus of not being able to make our monthly payments at that point. We can stay focused on our students and what we need to run the district, as opposed to how are we going to come up with our principal and interest payments. Is that right?
Correct, and I will add, the number we put in there is based on the numbers we have from the architect. So if the feasibility study next year comes in higher or lower, you can adjust either way with next year's budget. So we didn't want to arbitrarily say it's going to be $1.5 million or $2 million, and it could be, depending on what they find. I don't know, but you can make adjustments. This would be an evolving type line item until the time you actually need to implement it, which would be around 2022.
With this, excuse me, the $1 million, is this going into an account that's specifically designated for future buildings, and that's it? So if it's not used for that, what happens to that money? And I know it will most likely be used for that, but my concern is the money goes into account and then it just gets pushed out somewhere else.
Will not. It'll be put in. It will be
designated?
It'll be designated for future debt reduction, which will be so that, instead of borrowing the $50 million, you'll borrow, and if it turns out you do nothing, then you can use it for payment of debt service at any future budget if you had any left over, or if you needed to do something different.
Because I'll mention too that in the capital, we're down very, very low in capital reserves, and we know we're going to have some large expenditures. So even if somehow we don't end up building a building, we have some very large expenditures coming in the out years. So my guess is that we'll end up using at least a portion of this, because we don't really have any other way that we're really putting money back into capital towards those major capital improvements on the existing buildings. Because that was also part of what we were talking about in the feasibility, that even if we don't build a whole building, we may have to do some renovations on our existing buildings.
But Jen, I don't think we can present it both ways. I think it has to be one or the other, that either the $1 million is for future.
My understanding right now is that the $1 million is towards our future need. Now, whether we build on to existing buildings or whether or not we build a whole new building, it's really still all addressing, right? Yeah, that was what we.
Yeah, this will not go into a capital fund to do routine maintenance. This will go into a fund to reduce any future bond issues that you have, and to establish a line item so that 3 years from now you have $3 million on the books for a mortgage payment, so to speak, a bond payment in the year you.
I understand that, but that's different than what Jen's saying. Jen is saying that if we need a new roof, that those funds
It will
could.
not be used for a new roof. This is going to be earmarked much differently, and you are much more restricted on this money. So this money is debt reduction only. It is not for capital use, so our maintenance department can't get into there. So if you will have to dig that money from somewhere else if it comes up in the next couple of years. But if you don't do debt, period, you have options, because you can reduce existing debt or pay existing debt with it in a given year. If you find out that you've overdone it or don't need it at all, which I doubt, but so it is just a debt fund.
So it is a designated, okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? All right, the budget passes 7-2. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? All right, motion passes. The voting session is adjourned. We'll break for 1 minute while we change over board docs and start the work session. All right. First thing up is our last comments from our student representative of the year.
I know, bittersweet. Since I usually start with my updates with the countdown for the seniors, I'm excited to say that we have 0 days left of classes and only 11 days until graduation.
What do you do?
I don't know. Make ourselves busy.
Hopefully no fun.
Last week was pretty busy at the high school with the choral concert on Tuesday and the orchestra concert on Wednesday, and surviving tornadoes during them. Both were super successful evenings, and so was the senior award ceremony last Thursday. This morning, in honor of the last day, the seniors did a senior sunrise, which was super cute. And with that, I think the last thing I have left to update the board about is graduation and baccalaureate next week. But I'd also like to say thank you. The past 2 years serving as the school board representative have been super insightful about the inner workings of the school district and different things like that, and I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
The intermediate unit did hire a replacement for Dr. O'Brien. They have been working on a contract, and I will have more when I report after our next meeting, which will probably not be before the hiatus, our hiatus is over. But lots of work being done. They are preparing a satisfaction survey, which will be circulated to every superintendent in the county to answer some questions to see what the needs are for the member districts in this coming year. And I plan to be doing a lot with that piece of this year, so hopefully with a new director in place, a lot of energy going on and fabulous products that we have at the CCIU. If our member districts get a little more involved, I think we may be completing our mission a lot better and providing more satisfaction and maybe saving some money for the member districts. And that's it.
All right, thank you. Next up is a presentation from the biology students.
Yes, I am so very excited and so very appreciative for our students and our teachers to come tonight and share with us. Much of the highlights have been shared over the course of the last year and a half, and Dr. Beck would love to announce some of the things that have been happening with our students in our Honors Biology 2 class.
Good evening. I'm excited for you to hear from Mrs. Chrissy and Mrs. Medvick, formerly Ms. Kleinberg, as well as a few of their students, about an incredible partnership that has become more than I believe any of us imagined. Over 18 months ago, we were invited to explore the opportunity to connect and form a partnership with the Beating the Odds Foundation and the University of Pittsburgh's Brain Research Institute. The goal of our work was to create learning experiences for our high school students that allowed them to explore the many facets of biomedical research, as well as inspire them to seek higher education learning and ultimately careers within the health research and biological engineering fields, with the ultimate hope that they would be involved in finding a cure for the neurological diseases and other diseases for which there currently are no cures. For 9 months prior to this school year, and then throughout this school year, we met in person and worked virtually with many of the researchers and clinicians you will hear about shortly to revise and implement an Honors Biology 2 course that embodies a true collaborative learning partnership. This partnership incorporates content from the fields of neurobiology and neuroscience and fosters student engagement in on-site and virtual lab learning opportunities throughout the school year. These on-site and virtual opportunities ensure students apply their learning and see how their current and future studies can have a significant impact on neurological disease research. And I have to share one story. Last winter, during one of our many phone calls, Anita, who's the director of the Brain Research Institute, had me disheartened and worried. She expressed some concern about the content knowledge and academic preparation of our high school students. She had concerns that the partnership we were working through and envisioned was not going to be possible with high school students. But through the dedication, passion, and energy of our teachers, as well as our students, the partnership that we have created has truly blown her away. In fact, we are currently working with Anita, as well as the other researchers and clinicians at the Brain Research Institute, to share our work across the state. We've been in contact with PDE, so that these innovative opportunities and partnerships can happen with other medical research organizations and high schools to support, enhance, and reinvent student learning. The slide clicker, yeah.
Thank you for inviting us to present and share what our students have been doing with you tonight. This course, all right, I normally don't use a clicker, okay. This course, as Dr. Beck explained, is really a unique partnership that we have with the University of Pittsburgh. And on a personal level, whenever you get to teach kids biology, it's always exciting and rewarding. But this course has been especially fulfilling because as a biology major at Penn as an undergrad, I didn't get exposed to some of these things until my junior and senior year of college. And to be able to offer these unique learning opportunities for our high school students and to get to see them really excel has truly been rewarding. The theme throughout the year has been neurological disease, and neurological diseases range from things like Parkinson's disease and MS to seizures, but a focus throughout the year has been ALS, more commonly referred to as Lou Gehrig's disease. There have been unique learning experiences both virtually and in person. Thanks to you, we had the opportunity to bring our students out to the University of Pittsburgh on an overnight experience in the fall and again in the spring. And they got to meet on a personal level and make connections with people who are conducting science research, PhDs, and medical physicians, as well as other professionals in the field that help ALS patients improve their lives and their caregivers cope with the disease. Throughout the year, we used and I think Mrs. Crizzy brought it, a neurology textbook that's used across in universities across the country. It's heavy, and the kids have really stepped up to that challenge. And another component, we wanted to bring a personal level. So in addition to reading the college level textbook, they've also participated in double entry journals and literary circles where they've read novels written by ALS patients and their families. So they've gotten to see not just the mechanisms of the disease that they were learning about in the textbook, but that personal component of what it's like to live with the disease that we currently don't have a cure for. So I think there's no better way to tell you what's happening in the course than to hear it from the students themselves. So we brought 3 of our best, Lizzie Canella, Jared Ray, and Sarah Merriweather.
Hi, my name is Lizzie Canella, and next year I will be studying psychology at UCLA. So this year, throughout the first semester, we were introduced to many things about neuroscience, including neurons and glia, the neuronal membrane at rest, action potential, neurotransmitter systems, the structure of the nervous system, and spinal control of movement. In the second semester, we moved on to the brain control of movement, senses and behavior, and the changing brain, including brain evolution, brain wiring, memory, and learning. And as it was mentioned, we did use the college-level textbook, Neuroscience Exploring the Brain. When we first went to Pitt in the fall, we met with Rocco Scalzi, who is the founder of the Beating the Odds Foundation. He had been misdiagnosed with ALS, and it changed his life forever. After that happened, he established a partnership with the Brain Institute at Pitt with the Beating the Odds Foundation. Part of that foundation is the Quarterbacks of Life, which is being somebody who inspires and helps others to improve every day. And with that are the 5 stepping stones to success, which are dreams and goals, self-awareness, team support, decision and planning, and having a positive mental attitude. To reinforce those 5 stepping stones, we've been reading throughout the year Tim Shaw's Blitz Your Life, Stories from an NFL and ALS Warrior, and completing reflection journals about it. Tim, the author, is an ALS patient with enthusiasm for life. He's also a former Penn State linebacker and played in the NFL for several teams, including the Carolina Panthers and the Tennessee Titans. And personally, after reading the book, I thought it was very inspiring, and it gave a unique perspective on somebody who had been diagnosed with ALS and had also played professional sports.
Hi, my name is Sarah Merriweather, and I'll be studying physical therapy at Nazareth College in the fall next year. Our partnership with the University of Pittsburgh was very rewarding, especially for me since I'm going into the field. I found it personally very rewarding. We've been lucky enough to go to Pittsburgh 2 times, as Ms. Kleinberg mentioned earlier. We went once in September, and we also went again in April. While in Pittsburgh, we have the opportunity to meet with many neuroscientists who conduct research at Pittsburgh and at other locations, including Chris Donnelly, Uday Pandey, David Lacomas, Julia Koffler, and Christy Cochler. So before we went on the trip, we all got trained in chemical hygiene and bloodborne pathogens so we'd be safe and more knowledgeable when we got into the lab situations, because it's obviously higher stakes and way more expensive equipment than we're used to at our schools. And so being prepared and knowledgeable about that stuff was really important. So learning about that ahead of time was a good thing. Chris Donnelly, or Dr. Donnelly as we refer to him, is definitely a class favorite. We read his articles about all his research prior to going up, which was definitely increased our excitement level. He works in the Department of Neurobiology at Pittsburgh, and his labs use induced pluripotent stem cells, which he referred to mostly as IPCS, neurons and glial cells from patients that have ALS in order to study molecular pathogenesis of neurodegeneration. A lot of big words. In Dr. Donnelly's lab, you can see here some of the students examining neurons under the confocal microscope, which was one of those very expensive lab equipments that we barely like to touch because we don't want to mess anything up. But we had the awesome opportunity, it's okay. On the right, that microscope allowed us to take pictures that we could do on the computer of one single cell, which was incredible to see, and for us to be able to do it ourselves was a very cool experience. And we saved them under our name so that we could have it sent to us later, which was also cool. So in here you can see 2 students, Katie Pedullo and Annalise Parocca, and they're using gel electrophoresis to separate DNA fragments by size. So we all got to take turns using the pipettes, which are very advanced pipettes, but once we got them, we had it locked down, working with one of the graduate students to separate the DNA. So actually getting to work with the research that we've been reading about was a really awesome experience, and I think a lot different than what people get to see just from reading a textbook. So here you can see me on crutches. That was super fun. We learned about tissue culture and viewed stem cells under a microscope. So our small group on the left was watching one of Dr. Donnelly's lab assistants look at different neurons, one that had the proteins commonly found in patients with ALS and one that didn't. So seeing that difference firsthand with such high-level technology was really cool because we've been reading about it, but to see it in person with the research that's going on currently was definitely very interesting.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jared Ray. I'll be attending Kean University next year, and I'll be majoring in environmental science and also minoring in biology. First, I'd like to talk about another doctor that we met at the University of Pittsburgh, Uday Pandey. He was also a class favorite of ours. Dr. Pandey works in the Department of Pediatrics at the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. The main focus of his lab is to use fruit flies, also known as Drosophila, which we commonly refer to in our class, to examine the molecular mechanisms of ALS. while visiting Dr. Pandy's lab, we participated in small group discussions where Dr. Pandy taught us about his research, and he also gave us the opportunity to ask questions to further our knowledge about ALS. We were also fortunate enough to examine and test an apparatus in Dr. Pandy's lab that caused concussions in fruit flies, the Drosophila. And the reason behind these concussions was a form of research in which they examined the possible link between constant head trauma and ALS. Another doctor that we met with was Dr. Lacomas, who is a physician in the Department of Neurology at the University of Pittsburgh. When he spoke to him, he explained the tests that he does to see if a patient does have ALS, and he also gave us the opportunity to ask questions regarding treatment options and also the cost of medication for ALS patients, as well as also highlighting the importance of NIH funding, which helps ALS research. And then we have Dr. Kofler, who is also a physician, but she works in the Department of Pathology at the University of Pittsburgh. While in Pittsburgh, she talked to us about the neuropathology of ALS. And she was also generous enough to send slides with brain cells and also like straight brain from actual ALS patients. With these slides, we were able to study them under microscopes in the class among my classmates. And we got a firsthand idea of what ALS looks like in the brain.
Christy Kokler, who we met, or who I mentioned earlier that we met, is a neuroscientist at Pitt, but she also is on the ALS Association National Board of Trustees, which allowed us to have a cool experience where she brought in other members from the ALS Association from Western Pennsylvania, and we got to work with assistive devices that we've been reading about in our ALS books that we do journals on. So you go to the next slide. We got to work with occupational therapists who brought in, one of the things she brought in was a spelling board, which is something that Stephen Hawking used when he began to lack speech. So you can see the students using it. So you look, you place it here in front of you and you look to one side and that would choose that top box. And then they look again to one and that would choose which one within the box. And that's how you do letter by letter. So that was one of the first ways that they started to do that for any diseases that had lack of speech. And then this is a very advanced technology that we were very excited to use. I was very excited. It uses eye gaze control systems. So it calibrates your eyes a lot like a smartboard when you have to calibrate it. So you calibrate it to your eyes, and then it uses kind of like a Siri voice. You get to choose different voices, which we had fun doing. And they can also, explain to us that if you research this ahead of time, you can save your own voice before you lose it so that you can be speaking with your own voice as much as possible after you lose it, which I think would help with day-to-day life as patients struggle with dealing with their disease.
Dr. Kolarczyk also brought a wheelchair specialist who was able to explain the features designed to help ALS patients. Some of our classmates, as seen in the picture, Shannon Beston, were able to test these chairs, and we were actually very excited and intrigued at just how intricate these machines are, and you'd be pretty fascinated at just how much work goes into making an ALS patient's life just a little bit more comfortable when the progression goes through. So Rocco Scalzi was also another person that Ms. Kleinberg mentioned earlier, and he was the founder of Beating the Odds Foundation, and he brought David, an ALS patient, with him when they visited our school in September, and that was the first time we met both of them. We were also fortunate enough to see David again in April when we went to Pittsburgh, and here we were able to see firsthand what an ALS patient will go through throughout their diagnosis. And I'd just like to note, when I saw David, I felt, learning that he would have gone, his progression would have gone much faster. But when I saw him in Pittsburgh, he was very upbeat, happy with where he was, and he was glad to see us again, which was nice to hear. And I'd just like to take a moment just to note just how amazing David was. And as we know, ALS is a very crippling disease, so he has gone through a lot in his life, and just his upbeat and very, kind and positive attitude was just very, very nice to see in such a, late stage of such a horrible disease. But yeah, it was very nice getting to know him. And here we have a picture of David there right in the middle in the wheelchair, and Rocco right there in the suit on the ground. So that was all of us in our trips. So it was very nice, getting to know them this year. Just amazing people.
Thank you so much for supporting our PIT partnership. It was truly an amazing and unique opportunity, and nobody else could have given us this experience, so thank you.
Almost finished. So as our year concludes, we have had some other things going on that we wanted to share with you. Number one, the senior class held a variety show in May, and all proceeds raised were donated to the ALS Association in honor of Dave. And yes, that says $3,065, and that was in one night. We're very proud of that. And as their class advisor, I can tell you that this group of senior directors worked very hard, many hours behind the scenes creating the show. The talent was amazing. The skits were hysterical. I made a total fool of myself at the beginning. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. Regina's mini-me was a highlight of the show as well. Even the fire evacuation alarm added some hype to the night. There was a bake sale coordinated by our own classes and the NHS Society. Our classes also decorated the lobby with their projects about famous people with ALS in order to promote awareness. Even though our friend Dave is not a famous person to the general public, he has become our famous person and partner in our understanding of this dreadful disease. And our goal of trying to create a course that was both academically challenging and yet personal and human, the relationship with Dave was unique and instrumental. And as you had heard, he and Raghu did even visit us all the way from Altoona earlier in the year. And today, on the last day of class for seniors, our students took time to personally write letters and notes of thanks and encouragement to David that we have here to show you in our box here tonight. And we understand that he has been recently hospitalized. Our hope is that Dave and his family can perhaps open up 1 or 2 per day over the next few months. Since some of you got to meet Dave during this year, I brought some cards for you to sign as well. And I will touch base with Tricia a little bit later on to get them at some point before we send the box off. Maybe even if you don't know him personally, you could take a minute or two to thank him for helping us this year with the project. On a final note, we wanted to say thank you for supporting us throughout the year. It has been extremely challenging. For starters, trying to understand and teach a college-level neurology course, as you can see with the textbook, was difficult. The material is intense in all colleges, it's lecture-based. We found out that we had no resources, so we had to make it a lab-based course, basically on our own, to find and develop activities on our own, and we thank you for both trusting us to do this and for allowing us to purchase the needed supplies. We have learned that neurological diseases are on the rise, especially as people live longer. In previous decades, we learned heart disease and cancer were the main focus areas of research, and that has helped so many. We need to promote this area of research to our young people to encourage them to think about this career choice. We are thrilled to say that many of our students, as you had heard, are moving on to medical careers, and many are actually majoring in neuroscience. The partnership aspect of this course has been amazing, and we thank you for making it happen. As we move forward over the next few years in science curriculum revision, yay, my hope is to offer opportunities for not just in-depth understanding of scientific concepts, but to create more personal connections and partnerships in all of our areas. Hopefully, learning the content plus living the content will equal liking the course, maybe loving the course, you never know, and maybe students will find a career choice that they have never thought about before. If not, maybe they get to meet some awesome people like Dave and Rocco and all the professors that you saw who will enrich their lives like we have been enriched by them. That's it. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment, and I need to say when this idea was germinating and we approached Mrs. Medvec, formerly Mrs. Kleinberg, and Mrs. Chrissy, about the opportunity without hesitation. They were excited and so willing to do whatever it took to provide this experience to our students. And with conversations, when Dr. Beck had mentioned it is looked at now as a model I need to tell you the hesitancy from folks at the University of Pittsburgh will not move forward unless Mrs. Chrissy and Mrs. Medvec work with the teachers in other districts. So I really want to say thank you to you and thank you to the students because you really make us proud. Thank you so much.
Both these ladies have been with us for a really long time, and they've done some great things. Kathy and Christina, this was phenomenal. I'm going to cry the whole way home. But that we provide these types of things for our children is just, it blows me away. So thank you for picking that up and running with it. Thank you very much.
I have a question, actually, Dave, for Virginia. Absolutely. That was such an amazing presentation and an amazing opportunity for our kids, for the teachers, even for Dave and for Pitt. I understand that we're not continuing with the partnership with Pitt. How will this kind of course be replaced? Because it's a jewel.
We are planning, this partnership will continue. The dual enrollment for some of the courses.
This type of course? Okay, great. I would like to see, I mean, they got to take an opportunity of something amazing, and I want other students to be able to do the same.
And as was shared, we are continuing with other partnerships, and really we want to take the direction from the teachers because they know what best meets the needs of the students. And a lot of it is what they're willing to do with the course content. So, thank you.
All right, the monthly enrollment numbers are there for review. Policy. There's a second reading for adoption next week. And I think we reviewed those last week. I don't know if anybody had any other questions on them. All right. Superintendent's update. Top that one.
Yes. And this evening, our update is, you can move, thank you. Our update is just an announcement of upcoming activities. I believe everyone had an opportunity. I didn't need to highlight the amazing things because the students were actually here in front of you. And as Millie said, we've had some amazing talent over the last few weeks. June 4th, tomorrow evening, is our speaker series, Dialogues About Diversity. We are initiating a Council for Diversity and Inclusion, which will kick off tomorrow evening from 5:30 to 6:30. That will be a panel discussion from different members of our community, including myself and Dr. Wexler, as well as parents and students. And I believe also Samantha will be joining us as the board representative for that council. And the idea is to set the vision to move forward, and then we'll have a call to action, asking folks who may be interested on serving on that council to apply, similar to what we've done with other councils, the Safety Council, the Calendar Committee, etc. June 6th, General Wayne has their 4th and 5th grade musical. There are 2 shows. June 7th, Charlestown Field Day, and if you've had an opportunity to look at the website and our social media sites, you've seen other field days. What an amazing opportunity for our students to really enjoy playing together, competing with each other, and just all around having fun. June 11th, KDM is the 5th grade awards assembly. June 12th is high school baccalaureate. June 13th, Sugartown Awards Assembly, Charlestown 5th grade farewell, middle school awards assembly, and there are multiple based on the grades. June 14th is the last student day, and that is a half day. So June 14th will be a half day, as it is also graduation. Charlestown Awards Assembly, General Wayne Awards Assembly, and high school graduation on June 14th, beginning at 6:30 p.m., and a huge congratulations to the class of 2019.
Someone's a little disappointed in that. All right. I announced the building use reports there. Sorry about that. Nothing under food service. Finance. Last time, Chuck.
I'm here next week.
Last work session to explain all these to us.
Okay. So you will have a recommendation on there to have the superintendent and the new director of business affairs pay bills and stuff through the summer. I'll take care of them through June 27th at 4:30. Budget transfers, that's the tentative preliminary budget transfers. We'll narrow them down a little bit closer to next week. We had the tax appeals that let me put them up here for you. I'll find them. Thought I had sent those tax appeals in. Wait a minute. Yeah, sort of, okay.
Chuck, while you're looking for those also, what became of the ones that were approved last year that included residential? That was the first time we had residential. I'm curious if those are
Well, we've actually had residential.
included or,
No, it wasn't the first time we had residential, it was the second time, but we have more, we're still working through them.
they're not concluded yet? All right.
A lot of them are, but we'll get generally by the time it's done, we'll give you a list of how we've done.
Yeah, thank you. That'd be great to see.
Okay, so if you want to refresh or go in and out of there, you have a list of properties now in there. Oh, but sideways. We are actually getting down to where the list is going to kind of get smaller and smaller. We only have 2 residential ones in there. They're both in Willistown. They're both farms. Every one of these meet the criteria of the board policy that is they are at least $10,000 in revenue, property tax revenue, under what the estimated market value should place them at. So these people are not paying what we would consider their fair share based on the tax ratio in the county. A few of these are repeats, ones that we have actually did in 2014 and 15, a couple of the big companies. The estimate on this list, it's the smallest, what we'll call revenue recapture we may have over the past 7 years, and that's, we're guesstimating about $300,000 to $400,000 in revenue pickup for this. So any of these would be put in for these would not be for next year, these are for the 2021 school year. So as we kind of drill down on the properties, and we've done, in excess of maybe 75 or 80 properties that were egregiously underassessed, these are going to be some of the later ones. So take any questions on those. These will need to be approved next week for our appraiser to go forward. So.
And Chuck, we do this at this time of the year because the timing doesn't work in the fall, right?
We have to file the appeal by August 1st. You have no July meetings. So.
These are just following the policy that we have as far as.
This just follows the policy we have. You'll note a lot of the apartment complexes are on these because they are pretty dramatically under the, what the market value has them established at.
Could I ask a question about 9.04, the contract with Emily Stahl Photography?
Are there any more questions first on the tax appeal list? Just making sure. All right, sorry.
So the contract, could somebody comment as to what it's for and how did we used to do it if we did it another way?
Yes, we actually we didn't have any contract with having folks provide photography. So one of the things that, as a result of our surveys, it's hit or miss. If we have activities noticed and captured. So Emily has been, has done that when she was a PTO parent, but it was only for the schools in which she was the parent, and it was sort of done on a Google Drive for that particular school, whichever it was. It's great work, and we really want to have equal representation among our schools, not just capture events that we happen to have people attending that happen to have a camera that happen to share the pictures. This will allow us to have a much more clear path to making sure we're getting quality photographs of all of our students throughout the district. So that's the purpose of it.
I guess she'll be with Jen Blake, who'll tell her where to go.
Yes, Jen will be directing that work. And it really is in response to a lot of the surveys that we received. Certain groups, clubs, or activities were really not captured, and it was not purposeful, but it was irrelevant if it was your child who was repeatedly not captured. Yes. And certain events went unpublished, unpublicized.
And then we have a communications person also that we, let me find it. Don't stop. I'll ask the question prior to the next meeting to get the answer.
Do you mean the secretary?
Yeah, yes, with the. So that's replacing somebody that's retired.
Yes, it is our newly retired. It is the administrative assistant in that office has retired due to health reasons. So yes, we are replacing that position.
That works for me, thank you.
The next four things are simply special ed placements and agreements. And we don't have the monthly report tonight because today is the first day of the month we've been in session, so we'll have it for you next week. Today's the first business day of the new month.
I want to get my money's worth out of them. All right. Any other items? All right, I just have a quick response to a comment from last week, real quick. In response to public comment at our last meeting, I'd like to explain the sick bank language referenced by one of the public speakers. The sick bank, or the sick leave bank, provides paid leave to our bargaining unit members whose personally accumulated days became exhausted because of catastrophic illness or accident. There's a sick leave bank committee that makes determination related to the allocation of the bank days. The sick bank language is part of the carefully considered and negotiated GVEA collective bargaining agreement that was ratified in October. Any adjustments to the CBA would need to be addressed through a similar negotiation process. The CBA is also on the website if anybody has any other questions about it, and it spells it out pretty clearly. All right. Any committee reports or other board comments?
I just want to comment that I was at the awards presentation and last week, right? Yes. It just was phenomenal. Dr. Capitola, Mr. McCluskey, you really did a phenomenal job. Everybody left so happy. It was a banner night, so thank you. I wanted to just comment on that. It was a lovely, lovely time, and it was enjoyed by all. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? All right, the draft agenda for next week is listed there. At this point, I'll open up the microphone again for any other public comments on any other issues. All right, seeing none. What? Oh, well, I already announced we had executive session. We're not going back into executive session. Meeting's adjourned.